Good afternoon. Welcome to this week's Rotary. George, you've got our final program for the month.
Our speaker today really needs no introduction. Mike Dingeldein, he and his wife founded the Community Design Alliance. He's the CEO of the Core Fund. I don't know how he does everything that he does, but I would consider him one of our most valuable players. Mike Dingeldein.
All right, I'm going to sunset a school of thought, a line of thought that I've been working on for about 3 years. And it's based on a lot of things, and it's an evolving process. I guess I started this talk at Celebrating Self at the Fitness Center last year. We'll get there, Ian, hold on. But I want to close it out. I want to kind of sort of do a look back, and this is the interesting reason why. I have been getting invited to other cities around Ohio and even as far away as Erie, Pennsylvania, by chamber directors and development directors, and just asking the question, which I love to hear, what in the hell happened in Hamilton that made everything change so well? And so how did it happen? And they really want a single answer. They want a silver bullet, and I'm trying to come up with a silver bullet. I'm going to throw one out today, but there really isn't one thing. There's a lot of things. The Great Ohio Policy Center just released a 60-page document where they studied 24 traditional urban cities in the Midwest to the east, from far away as Buffalo to Hamilton, Ohio. So of those 24 cities, Hamilton is one of them. And these are the things they talk about in terms of their silver bullets, what they learned when they studied these 24 cities in the context of each other. Strong local leadership, check. Shared community vision, check. Inclusive growth, cross-sector collaboration, creative problem solving, and placemaking. Some of those are a little hard to get our arms around, and I've found that's to be true of a lot of what I'm going to talk about today. It is hard to define in simple sentences or simple terms. But my working premise today, and this is the last time I'll present this premise, is that I believe quality of life investment is the number one thing. It gives us the highest return on investment in our community revitalization. That's not necessarily something that comes to mind. You think of adding jobs and adding investment from outside the city, you think of those things as the big numbers. I think it's quality of life, and that's really strange. And I'm a baby boomer, I'm a numbers guy, but I'm also tied to the creative side too. And I think that perhaps, and this is hard for me to say as a baby boomer, that this guy is right, Daniel Pink. I've talked about this book many times. He writes a book about why creative types, right-brain thinkers will rule the future. But his most preposterous and most amazing and most profound statement that he makes in that book is we are liberated by abundance and prosperity, but not fulfilled by it. So who grew up thinking that abundance and prosperity wasn't what we were looking for? And there was something more that we all wanted. And so that's a big statement, and it's a big head fake for most of us. There's another lady who writes a book about live, work for a second. She talks about this exact same theme, but she presents it from the standpoint that the millennial generation has brought it to the forefront. But what Daniel Pink says is it's in all of us. It's part of all who we are, and if we think this way, we are going to come up with the magic of the future in terms of how cities revitalize, how businesses thrive, how communities thrive, how families thrive. So that's a big, big pivot point. It's a big head fake for all of us, and it's the basis, I think, of what I'm going to try to do today when I look back at the last 3 to 5 years in Hamilton. So I'm going to start with our strategic plan that was done in 2012. Done by city leadership, done by city council. Tim Nab was one of those people. It's a pretty good plan. It's based on the idea of live, work, and play. So it's getting into those ideas that there's more than just work in terms of what we do. And if you look at the mission statement, the center of the circle, it says, create economic opportunity. That's what you expect a city strategic plan to say. That's what we want. That's what we all want. But the way they were going to go about it is not so usual. By connecting people, building a positive image, and developing a sense of place. Those are soft, intrinsic things. And so, for the bean counters in the world, that's hard to come by. Why is a soft, intrinsic strategy going to give us an instrumental outcome of economic opportunity? So then I pulled all the strategies off the outside of the wheel. There's 7 of them, and I was going to do an analysis. Which of the 7 did we do well? Which of the 7 didn't we do so well? And are they individual challenges, or are they some kind of mixed challenge? And so when you look at all 7, I was hoping to find that we were 5 for 7 or 6 for 7. I can tell you very strongly that we are 7 for 7. But in fact, the 7 for 7 isn't the head fake again. It's not the deal. The deal is there's a net collective effect from those things happening together. They support each other. You can't improve your urban core without an arts and culture identity. You can't increase home ownership without retail, restaurant, and entertainment. You can't attract private investment or add jobs without all those things on that circle happening. And so it isn't a matter of which ones did we succeed at and which ones did we fail at. It's a matter of how does doing it all together make something much bigger in the end result. So I'm going to go around the horn. I'm going to talk about this stuff. So now, Ian, you can clap. We're at arts. So our arts and culture identity was our foundation. It preceded all the things that we started doing in 2010. It preceded hiring Joshua Smith. It preceded changing wholly our council and our leadership and our thinking about strategies. It was all 90s propositions. The Fitness Center, Pyramid Hill, and City of Sculpture all happened in the 90s. I always say that any one of these happening in a city like Hamilton is a home run. All 3 of them happening in Hamilton is a grand slam home run. And then I'm reminded, as I was today, that you can't forget the Butler Philharmonic and the Civic Theater and Miami Valley Ballet and all of the arts organizations in Hamilton. We have it in spades. It's really amazing. And the idea that we could start our revitalization of our city off of this foundation, I think is very real. And it was the one thing we could grasp onto in the 90s because we didn't have much else. But now, in where we are in 2017, we can clearly see that this was our pathway here. What surprised me when I was chair of the Fitness Center board is we would go to the Fine Arts Fund to ask for funding support, and they told us very clearly in our application, you need to prove economic impact. You need to have bean counters show butts and seats, show room nights, show hotel nights, show restaurant receipts. You need to have a direct or extrinsic economic impact. That's all true. Butts and seats is big for the arts and how they get funded, and it's how they survive. But what I think happened to us when we did this, and I've talked about this before, is we missed the other end of the spectrum. We missed the fact that there is something very intrinsic about the arts, that we all do it because of ourselves. And so the idea that arts are part of why we're happy as people is something that is what Daniel Pink is talking about. It's something bigger than prosperity and abundance. And it's fine to talk about economic impact. In fact, it's necessary to talk about economic impact, but it's a very great disservice to miss the other end. So you look at the Fitness Center as a participatory and immersive arts experience. It's great. So it is about butts and seats, but you know what it's really about? It's about your butt in the seat. It's about you getting a chance to immerse yourself in the arts in our community. And this gives us that opportunity. If you haven't seen this year's seasonal brochure, it's an amazing work of art by itself, but it also is filled with an amazing amount of things that we get to do this year in Hamilton, Ohio. And that is amazing to me. Ian, congratulations. It's a wonderful effort. I love the things that we're going to be able to do in Hamilton this year. It's fantastic to be able to participate in your own local community, drive 60 seconds from your house to a place that has all these kinds of options. And then we have the City of Sculpture, which is what I call the drive-by culture of art in Hamilton. It is an ambient arts context. It's out there in the public realm. You don't interact with it very much. You drive by it every day, though, and everybody in the community drives by it every day. So I do think we have a tremendous broad impact with the City of Sculpture because we have sculpture out in the public realm. And we argue about it, we fight about it, we laugh about it, we love it, we hate it, but we're talking about art in a community like Hamilton, and I think that's fantastic. And we have an amazing collection in the form of 55 public sculptures in Hamilton, in the public realm. We've just started to go beyond sculpture to murals and talk about cross-cultural collaboration. This is what the Ohio Policy Center said. They love seeing that one of our city goals and our city teams are planning is art in public, and they partnered with the Fitness Center and created Street Spark. So we have all these really wonderful new murals in Hamilton that are adding to our public realm art immersion. And then we have Pyramid Hill, which I truly say is incomparable. I've traveled a lot around the country, and when I go places, I look for outdoor sculpture presentations, and I rarely see anything anywhere close to Pyramid Hill. So what Harry accomplished here is amazing. In the context of a beautiful natural setting is bright red, powder-coated steel art. And there's something cool about art when there's a background of blue sky and green trees and green grass that's very different than when you see it in downtown on top of our monument. It's a very different experience. And again, an incomparable collection, over 140 pieces, I believe. I'm not sure of that number, but it is just amazing. And if you don't take advantage of this every time you get a chance, you're missing out on an opportunity to be outdoors and in the immersion of art. So let's get to where chronologically Joshua brought us to. When he got here, he said, if there's anything you have to do first, it's to improve the vitality of your urban core. You got to start there. If your downtown isn't vital, everything else is really hard to get off the ground. So while we had that foundation of arts, the second of the 7 things around the wheel was really to talk about downtown revitalization. And again, Dan Pink had something in mind when he thought about his book. There is a qualitative vitality for live, work, and play in historic, urban, traditional environments. It's true, and it's where I started to make my premise start to connect here. We have an incredible infrastructure in place in downtown that's already here, and it was built by our industrial wealth, and even though that industrial wealth is gone, we still have that asset. We have lots of stakeholders and resources, so a lot of people are willing to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. And as an architect, I must tell you that human scale and human interaction works better in urban environments. That's a little bit preposterous and bold, but I believe it. Things go better in terms of how we react together as humans in urban environments. So we had all that going for us. That's not about Hamilton, that's about any urban environment. Then we had that chicken and egg problem. Is it living downtown? Is it storefronts lit up downtown? What comes first? And we didn't know, and we weren't sure, and these guys came to town and made this perfect for us because they knew, and they made it happen, and now they are reproducing that in cities all over Ohio. It was living downtown, putting feet on the street, that really had to come first, because we really had to start showing that there were people occupying our downtown spaces beyond 8 to 5 to make us think about it. And so right behind the Merc was Art Space, so we had a really big influx of downtown living to then support some new arts organizations like Miami Valley Ballet, the School of the Arts, and then some pioneers. And I have to say that Sherry and Sarah were both pioneers because their stores were lit up before there were feet on the street. And so they took a big risk. And if they hadn't, we wouldn't be as far along as we are today. And so those are good pioneers to have. And so here's the number, which again, I shared many times. I still can't explain it. It wouldn't be in many textbooks, that we went from 2% to 100% occupancy in the center block of downtown Hamilton in 5 years. It was a lot of people, it was a lot of things, and when you see the rest of my information today, you're going to see some of the reasons why I think this is unique, but also expected from what happened when we look at everything. So then we had some downtown feet on the street, and we were able to start actually realistically promoting retail, restaurant, entertainment. So we started to get some groundwork, we started to get some traction, and now we're looking at a destination where we have 7, 8, 9 retail establishments in a couple block area in downtown. And so this has been successful, but I will tell you, this is where the hardest work happens. This is where the thinnest margins are. This is where the tightest return on investment is, and yet we still have people trying to do it. And that is why I admire them the most. Everything you do in one of these places you think is doing very well is very, very hard work. The boots on the ground leadership of any community revitalization, I think, is small business. And these guys are doing it, and doing it by doing very hard work. If you didn't get to see Cindy and Sarah get their awards last month, they both said the same thing, that it's not luck, it's very hard work, and it takes a lot of people. It takes a village. If you don't believe that, you don't know these two. And if you haven't seen this, TV Hamilton has it on YouTube. But it's a lesson for all of us. So the City Council said, let's replicate Hamilton downtown with Hamilton West Side Main Street. And so as you can see plainly, there's a lot of work happening on Main Street. It's hard work. The city has helped fund it through the Community Improvement Corporation, and we have made a very strong inroad on acquiring lots of property. Between the city and the Core Fund, about 12 properties in the first 2.5 blocks of Main Street. And it includes parking, it includes buildings, it includes street improvements, it includes sidewalk improvements. It's a comprehensive look. It includes safety improvements and lighting. It's a lot of things happening. And it's 4 steps. Step 1, acquire strategic properties, ones that need to be lit up again, need to be revitalized. Step 2, stop the hemorrhaging of damage to buildings. Fix the envelope. That's the roof, that's the walls, that's the windows, that's the doors, that's the storefronts. Make them viable again. Step 3 is gut the traces of the past from the inside. Make it a very blank canvas for something new. What that is, we may not know yet, but in the case of this one, we did. But make it a new blank slate. And then it allows people to think of what could happen here. Is this supposed to be a sporting goods store? Is it supposed to be a shoe store? Is it supposed to be a tattoo parlor? Is it supposed to be a restaurant? Let it all be possible, but try to move feet on the street. And then step 4 is the hardest one, and that's match it to somebody who can make it happen. And it takes, again, just like Sarah said, a lot of people have to work hard and pull the same direction to make it happen. So the idea that running a restaurant is hard business and it's hard work, finding the people who are committed to doing it is the way we're going to do the revitalization and the change. And having a view from the rooftop isn't a bad additional feature to help make that happen. Moving around the wheel, increasing home ownership. This is skin in the game. This is probably the hardest one. It's the one I thought should be the easiest because Hamilton is blessed with very great building stock, again from that industrial wealth. 3 National Register Historic Districts. German Village, fantastic buildings, beautifully crafted. The German immigrants that were the engineers and the artisans and the designers in our industrial heyday, they built this neighborhood. These were middle-class houses, but they were very nice. And they've stayed very nice, but we have had to continue to try to pull that back in terms of availability. We have the Dayton-Campbell district is where the captive industry lived. This was A.M. Bender's house, Christian Benninghoffen's house, Robert McKinney's house of Niles Toolworks, and George Adam Rentschler's house. All fantastic houses. You know what's amazing about these houses is everyone that lives in these houses are very engaged Hamilton citizens. They have skin in the game. It makes a difference. Then we have the Rossville district, which was kind of post-1900. And what is amazing to me is every house I'm going to show you is the same architect, Frederick Mueller, but not one of these houses is identical to the other. Very great differences in terms of the quality, the size, the architectural style, the treatment. They're all very diverse and very interesting. Something for everyone in a neighborhood where we are all very close-knit. So why is it that we have this issue with home ownership? By the way, in Hamilton, home ownership is in the 30s, 30%. It's very low. All cities are similar, but we have to change that. Here's one of the reasons. Mother Nature works very hard against us. Old houses don't fare well if they aren't maintained properly. We call this demolition by neglect, but we need incentives to help people maintain houses, and we need disincentives to help people not let them get into this condition in the first place. It's a difficult challenge. So again, one of the places where the Core Fund stepped in was we were starting to look at taking houses from the land bank that were destined for demolition, especially ones that were in our historic districts, and see if we could apply those same 4 principles of our building fund to this. And by the way, this is a separate fund and a separate program of the Core Fund that's funded by the Markham family. So another place where they've put a lot of help into Hamilton. So step 1, acquire. Step 2, stabilize the envelope. You can tell this envelope was in really bad shape. So we spent about $60,000 stabilizing the envelope in this house, and then all we had was a stabilized envelope. Because inside, step 3, I thought we could avoid. We could avoid dark shelling this building, making it a blank palette, because certainly people were going to know it was going to be a house. Why would we have to do that? Well, this picture explains why. Nobody could come into a house like this and see a future. It was pretty gross. And so we followed back to our commercial step 3. We dark shelled the house. Once we did that, people could very easily start to see how they would turn it into something that we let them make the choices and let them match to the choices of finishes and countertops and appliances and floorings, you name it. And they knew at the end of the day, whatever we put in it, they bought it for. And so it's turned out to be a really great program. It's a very slow program because these take 6 months probably to perform beginning to end. And our funding is such that we have to do these one at a time and recycle our funds. But the impact has been great. And because we started our focus in German Village, I do believe that we've had a tremendous impact on the rising tide raises all ships. We're seeing much better appraisals for houses in German Village since we started this 3 years ago. And this is the one I have nothing to do with, but I will tell you I'm so impressed and also very intimidated by the idea that we can make this work. To divide our city into 17 neighborhoods to try to break down grassroots engagement into something that's going to work is very, very hard work. There's a lot of sadness and weeping and gnashing of teeth out there, and if we can get people at a grassroots level engaged in their neighborhoods, we're going to succeed wildly. But that's really hard work. And so I applaud the city and the folks that are working on this, and we now have a board of representatives from all neighborhoods in the city trying to do this, and they're giving grants, and they're trying to help spur creativity. But most importantly, we're engaging people at a grassroots level. I will tell you, 22 years ago, the very first invitation I ever had to participate in Hamilton civically was Paul Toms inviting me to join the Rossville Neighborhood Board of Trustees. That is how you get people engaged at the grassroots level. At that point in my life, I could imagine working at a neighborhood level. I couldn't have imagined working at a core fund level. And so if this works, this is our biggest potential success in our future. It's not about neighborhood boundaries. It's about breaking the city down into places where you can get people engaged and get skin in the game. And so I like this diagram because it's not a map of Hamilton, but it just does show, how Hamilton is made up of lots of little areas. And if they start organizing this way, we have a great potential. And then we heard from Tony a couple weeks ago about the city schools. Good news was he had some encouraging news. He also had some discouraging challenges that he shared with us. And I think my takeaway is if we want home ownership to be a big deal in Hamilton, we have to separate any silos that exist between the community and the community schools. If we don't think we're in this together, we won't succeed. Every success that happens at the Hamilton school level will help at the neighborhood ownership level in a city like Hamilton. If we can't succeed in our education system, we can't succeed in our neighborhood ownership. So this is something that's super important. And again, it's encouraging to see good news starting to come our way. Special events and recreation. Remember Dam Fest many years ago. Thought it was a lot of hard work for making a little bit of money. And I thought, why would people work so hard year after year to make a little bit of money? And then we started Ice Fest. And then a couple years, or now 6 years ago, we started Operation Pumpkin. People think of those as fundraisers. If we thought of Operation Pumpkin as a fundraiser, I will tell you, we lost money 3 out of the first 4 years of our existence. We would have stopped after the first year. It wasn't a fundraiser. But what it is this: establishing a sense of place and building a positive image. It has a huge ROI that doesn't come back to the organizers. And Ashley Willis's words, this is badass. That's a concert in High Street last October at Operation Pumpkin. It was an amazing event. People from all over were there, not just people from Hamilton, but it was really a place where we had a great sense of place as a community. That's the income, the ROI from Operation Pumpkin, not the few dollars that we make or lose in a given year. It's an indirect ROI. So you think of the Catholic Church festivals, you think of the Hamilton Flea, you think of Ice Fest, you think of all the things we bring people to Hamilton. It's not just the money that the vendors make or the money that the groups that organize it make. It's the number of people who come and say, I haven't been to Hamilton in a long time, and I can't believe how it's changed. That's the ROI for us, again. And then green space and park space, again. This is quality of life, almost 100%. What good does it do, our bottom line? What good does it do fixing potholes in the street? Or should we even redirect this money to fixing potholes in the street? And I'm here to tell you that, again, quality of life all by itself has an ROI. But when you look at this, we cobbled together a lot of state funds to create this little amphitheater on the river. What good is if we give away the concerts for free? There's no ROI. Well, there is an ROI. Look at that. That's our ROI. That's what's happening in Hamilton. And in fact, just last year, we were rated the best outdoor concert venue in Greater Cincinnati. That doesn't happen unless people from Greater Cincinnati are coming to Hamilton to find out what's going on here. 3 weekends ago, in September of 2017, every one of these events took place in one weekend in Hamilton. Alive After 5, David Shaw's acoustic show at the Fitness Center, the Hamilton Flea, Rock the Block, Farmers Market, Dragon Boat Festival, and the Big River Get Down, all in one weekend. You had to make choices, actually, to find out what you were going to do that weekend. That's an amazing achievement. And I think from Adam, I heard there were people here from 13 different states in Hamilton, Ohio in one weekend. So when the Markhams came to the city and said, what can we do? Again, quality of life was the answer. And some people said, why would you redirect all that money into one project like this, Markham Park? But I will tell you, all by itself, as a quality of life amenity, it's great. It's caused property values to go up in German Village. It's caused events to take place in Hamilton that otherwise wouldn't have had a place to take place. And it's a place where people from all ages and backgrounds in Hamilton are enjoying. So is there indirect ROI, or is there a net effect, which we've been talking about, from all these 7 things? Great picture, by the way, Ian. There is. We had a lot of RFPs for empty site development going on in Hamilton, and every time they were a goose egg. They had zero responses, no possibility. But after Markham Park was finished, we had much better than goose eggs. We had a $15 million investment in upper-level market rate apartments. Again, I don't remember in my lifetime if that's ever happened in Hamilton. Pretty cool. And top of the line kind of a place. And then we started seeing private investment following the investment that city made and the core fund made. Community First Solutions, which by no accident, their business plan is quality of life, health and wellness, invested $6 million in an empty furniture store. Again, that's all pretty simple to put on paper, but when you go and you see this place, this is the best Class A office space I've ever seen in my life, not just in Hamilton. It's a fantastic building, fantastic investment, and again, it's part of a very successful organization that builds their success off quality of life. So Daniel Pink might be right. And what happens around that and in context and in concert with that is also very important. People say that because we made the maybe stupid decision to buy the Elder Bremen building that we had an opportunity to land StarTech. I will tell you the empty building was a piece of why StarTech came to Hamilton, but the net effect of all the things we've just shown you is the real answer. It was a net effect happening that caused 600 jobs to come to Hamilton. Same thing. The world headquarters of a dead paper company that used to be the largest paper company in the world, what is that but an anachronism in a city like Hamilton? But after we had the net effect of everything that was happening, the rising tide, again, 1,500 new jobs in Hamilton. And then the one that I talked about last year, it's hard to explain, it's the 400-pound gorilla. How in the world do you take a dead paper plant, which is truly dead, it's overgrown, it's bricked in, it's dark, it's contaminated, it's all those things. And how do you attract a $140 million investment from out of town? Again, Sam will tell you, and he's going to be talking at the fitness center this year, he will tell you it's the net effect of what was happening in Hamilton, the quality of life net effect. We're using that existing infrastructure to make this new place. And that's the best part as an architect, as a city planner, as an urbanist, that we're keeping most of that infrastructure in place. That concrete structure that supports the paper machine upstairs is going to form the bar and the lobby downstairs. Fantastic stuff. All those windows you see in the background, they're bricked in today, but they're all going to be replaced with real glass again. This is going to be actual real space from the upper level where the paper making machines were. It's going to be forming the lobby of the hotel. The hallways between the two sides of the hotel and the 500-seat event center in the hotel. So there it is today, overgrown, bricked in, and dark, and contaminated, all those things. Here it is when it was the largest coated paper company in the world in the 20s. And there was it at night. And hopefully we're going to see that again. So am I right? Is the net collective effect what's the answer? Is that the silver bullet, the $64,000 question? Any one of those, my favorite line from the movie Amadeus, if you just placed one note, there would be diminishment. My theory is if you just placed one of these successes, there would be diminishment. But taking them all together collectively, we have an answer. And it could really be about this. You know, I'm hard pressed to prove it. I'm not a scientist, but I'm amazed by if you accept this as your preposition, that it's amazing how much this could impact what's going to happen in Hamilton in the next 10 years. So here's the final page of this report from Revitalizing America's Smaller Cities. And this is about Hamilton. Pooling resources and talents around clear priorities and goals, creating channels of communication to ensure nimble responses, and accepting that no single entity has the resources to revitalize Hamilton alone, has generated new energy and commitment among Hamilton's residents and leaders, and is poised to produce an incredible return for this city. That's what they say. So I'm not going to argue with that. I'm going to stop there. Yeah, if you want.
That are probably a lot worse off still today, and have been for the last 10 or 15 years.
And many of them, including us, we have some strengths. We're a county seat. Richmond has Earlham College. You know, there's something in every city that helps it, but nobody has pulled together in terms of the net collective effect. No one has got their arms around the big stuff like we have, and they're looking for how to do that. Yes.
Yeah, as a follow-up kind of to Joe's thing, I told you this, Mike, but I was at my wife has a lot of family in Springfield. We were at a wedding shower, and somebody overheard that I was from Hamilton. He said, "You're from Hamilton?" And, you know, I've been here a long time, so my natural reflex was like, why do you ask? You know, getting ready to take a body blow, and it was, help me out, the guy that did the Miami thing, Michael, something or other, and Bill Russell, and
Oh, right. right? They're from the Ohio Education
Right, and
Department.
they've done a lot of things in
Yeah.
communities all over. the
And they have
state.
Clark State College downtown
Right.
Springfield.
And they couldn't say enough about Hamilton. They said that Hamilton has become kind of what they point to when they go to communities like that, and say this is what you can become, but you have to have alignment. And their take was maybe slightly different than yours, but one of your slides, I think, said the leadership here is not infighting and in their silos, they're aligned. They put aside their narrow desires, whether it's private sector, council, government, core. They mentioned all these, chamber. They mentioned all these groups, HCF is a big one. That those groups have figured out, okay, if we come together and leverage and give up something along the way for the betterment. And it's noticed, and these guys, I'm sure that's part of, some of the things you get calls on is, what are you guys doing? Because people like that are going around telling the rest of the
Nobody
state.
can do it on their own.
Yeah.
You can't do it in silence. That's
So
a big thing.
congratulations.
And we do need to get away from your and my mindset that every time we hear about Hamilton now, we have to
I'm
win.
starting to come around.
We have to all come around. We can't even say, I can't believe it's happening in Hamilton anymore. We have to just say, yeah, of course it's happening in Hamilton.
Of course.
Yes, sir.
Isn't that silver bullet though that people are asking for? Isn't the alignment that you're talking about? Isn't
I think
that,
to a large degree, I mean,
that's kind of the silver bullet.
like the school thing that some of us
Creating
attended a
channels
few
of
weeks
communication,
ago.
yeah. I mean, I do think that's one thing we learned from Iowa, Dubuque, Iowa, when we went, is they had a weekly meeting with all the stakeholders, and we started doing that as well. Yes, sir.
So you talked about homeownership being about 30%. What would we want it?
At least over 50. And again, rental property isn't a bad thing. The MERC is rental property. But we really need people who are engaged in the community. And to be engaged, you have to either have a job that engages you and you could live in a rental property, or you have to live in a neighborhood that engages you and you've got a reason to be engaged because you own property in a city like Hamilton. Thanks.
Okay, next week, same time. Lee Sanders, our speaker. We'll have a good meeting. So everybody have a great weekend. Thanks.